3 years after I got my degree, AI started taking over. So who knows what's going to happen with my game arts degree.
But college sort of sets you up to like work on stuff that you don't really want to.
Do you ever think about going back to college?
No. The problem with game dev is game technology, it upgrades so fast, it progresses so quickly that curriculums can't keep up. We weren't using modern versions of any of the tools. I remember having fights with my teachers, and I would give her resources, and they'll just say I'm wrong.
Do you think that going to college is worth building those connections?
He's gonna say no. Why even ask him? He hates college. Get out of here.
I met the dumbest people going to college.
Oh, that's true. I have too. Wait. Oh my God. Yeah. Now that you mention that, I took art classes, and you see people that are like autopiloting art classes, like they just aren't really trying that hard, and they're just doing it to get the grade, like to get a good grade. And the whole time I'm thinking like, your portfolio is gonna be so bad. Like they're not gonna get anything out of this. Like, why are you doing this?
So healthy,
every
right?
time, by the way. Henry, you waiting for me to do the hand?
Sorry, guys. So guys.
Me building up. All right, I'm ready to start it. What's up, guys? Welcome to the Overscoped podcast. My name is MZF. Joining me today is Henry, Vera Studios on YouTube.
Hello.
Maxi Dev on YouTube.
Hello.
And Kobe Dev on YouTube.
What's up?
But all those guys are really fucking boring because we have Comet. Keith Makes Games on YouTube. Keith, welcome to the podcast.
What's up, gamers?
Yes, we're all gamers here.
Yeah. What's up?
So, right off the bat, how'd you get into game dev? And what are you making games on?
Okay. Well, when I was a baby, I really liked video games. My mom likes to tell me that I came out of the womb with a controller. So when in about my 8th year of existence, I decided I wanted to try to make levels for Unreal Tournament, which it's a very old game that a lot of people probably have never heard of, but that's actually what Unreal Engine was built off of, was Unreal Tournament and the Unreal series. Kind of crazy, am I right?
Wow.
So, yeah, right. Yeah, now it's all about Fortnite, it's the Fortnite engine. But yeah, so I started working on Unreal maps, and so I started using Unreal, the Editor 1, and then just kept going up with the different iterations.
Since you were 8 years old.
Damn, you're certain.
I think that's.
So you're an OG. Unreal
I'm
user.
I'm an OG in the Unreal space. But I was joining a Epic Con back when I was 10 years old. I met Tim Sweeney with my hands. I didn't do that.
You didn't. Okay, these are all fake stories.
Yeah, no. No, I moved on from Unreal to like the best game engine, Little Big Planet. And then
I did that too. I love doing that. Yeah. Did you like those games growing up where it's like where you can create stuff, Little Big Planet, and nowadays you have like Mario Maker and stuff? But
oh yeah,
I always
yeah,
loved
yeah.
that.
Yeah, like I'd say that's that like Little Big Planet, Roblox, and Minecraft were like the ones that really got me into like the creative sphere.
Yeah.
I remember like I would do those, and then my dad was like, "Oh my God, you should like actually try making a real video game at one point." I'm like, "No, that's what college is for." and then I actually started making video games and stopped playing those games.
Yeah. I find it's really hard to play Minecraft because it uses all my creative juices, and then I don't have it for work on stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like too easy to get sucked in, and I'm like, no, I'm not working on stuff, but it feels like work a little bit in a fun way.
Oh yeah,
So
like ever since I started doing like the 3ds Max and like all the modeling softwares and like the game engine stuff, I find it much harder to enjoy those kinds of games now. Like I can't really play them anymore without being like, I can't. Why am I playing this when I could be making real stuff?
Right. It's a bummer because they were fun. I don't know if that's ever going to come back or if that's just a part of us that's lost now. It really sucks.
I agree.
What is your favorite game of all time?
Bad question. Next question.
It's got to be like Crash Bandicoot or something. That's what I'm pulling it like you're.
Yeah, it depends on like my mood. It's either Crash Bandicoot or Doom Eternal. It swaps between those two.
Those are so drastically different.
That's why it says bad question.
That is funny because whenever you work on stuff and you show us your games and everything, it's always like, yeah, the Doom really intense, like bloody, gory, old stuff, and then it's like this, like the happy pumpkins jumping around or whatever. It's like, yeah, the dichotomy between those two is hilarious.
Yeah.
Do you have any like broad advice for game dev or for YouTube before we jump into the topic and everything else?
I don't know. I got like almost 300 subscribers. I'm not sure if I'm the best person to ask, but
Well, you have a very relatable, like a lot of us, we're all in that position at one point, like growing and trying to learn the channel. So like, what has been working for you? What do you like? Any advice?
Deadlines. I know no one likes to hear that word, but like the more I give myself actual like set deadlines to to meet, it actually gives me it gives me like an actual time frame to finish something. And with me, I have like a busy life. I have work. I have a love life. I have upkeep around my house. So like I can't really just work on things forever. So I think for those who have a job and all that, I think having a strict schedule, trying to make sure that like if you set yourself up for just 1 month for a project, don't go over that month. Like just finish it, do it, and just do what you know, and it'll work out. Good luck.
I feel like I struggle with like enforcing that deadline, because I feel like when it comes, it can just go and like nothing happens, There's no repercussion. Is there?
Well,
Go ahead.
That's where you like, give yourself a piece of candy. You see, you ever heard of that thing like you reinforce yourself, so like you get yourself a pizza or whatever. Like, oh, you know what? I did it. I finished it, and if I push it back, I'm not getting that pizza.
Yeah. Okay.
I think exterior pressure is like the best way. That's why I always point to the game jams, and it works for you too, right, Henry? When you have exterior pressure, something outside of you pushing you in a certain way, then like even if it's arbitrary as all fuck, it does work on me. I don't know why. I don't know why. I think we talked about before. It's like, are you as productive when you're not in a game jam? And I go, no, not even close. Not even like 1/10 of it. But when there's an arbitrary like, hey, the game's gonna be due and there's nothing you can do about it, then all of a sudden it's like, well, I don't have to sleep. Like I can skip some of this or whatever. I don't think it's healthy, but I was just gonna say quickly. It also explains why like crunching is so big in like game development, because it is like when there's like a deadline, I can sympathize with it. I'm sure it's much crazier in a game studio, but
college sort of sets you up to like work on stuff that you don't really want to. So I'm curious if you think that if college sort of like built that skill where like if there's something that you need to get done, you'll just get it done.
No.
No.
It wasn't college. I was so bad at college, dude. Like I almost failed it. All right.
Did you do 4 years?
No, I did 2 years. I did the accelerated course.
Oh, cool.
Really?
Nice. And what was the degree or?
My degree was a bachelor's of science in game arts.
Wow.
Oh wow.
Two
So it was
years.
like really direct.
That's
That was very confusing for a lot of people because like I keep getting like a job offers on LinkedIn for like, hey, we saw you have a bachelor's of science. Want to work on our really big programming tool? I'm like, no, I can't. I think you missed the part where it says arts.
Arts. Yeah. The Achilles heel of every
Yeah, it's
art.
like, oh great, so I'm not getting the art positions, but I'm getting the computer science positions.
That's really interesting. I thought you went to. I mean, it is a 4-year degree, right? But you just took it accelerated. Was there any like requirements or anything that you had to do to be able to join a course like that or a program?
No, no. I'd say that as like they kind of just accept you because they like having students there and hopefully graduates as well.
Well, it's actually interesting that you say 4-year course because I'm doing a similar course in terms of the content, but I'm also doing a 4-year course. But I don't think you can do it accelerated. It has to be 4 years, but the 4th year is a shorter year because instead of doing your usual 2 semesters, it's like one large capstone project or like a report or something like that.
Oh, right, yeah.
So, yeah, it's obviously very different in Australia is like college in the US, but mine is more of like a computer science kind of job, whereas I really wanted to find something that was just for game dev, but I just couldn't. So when you say like you did something with game science and art, it's like, well, that was like, I don't know, be a dream.
If I had to be honest with you, the way you're taking it right now is the way I probably would have taken it if I went back to school.
Really?
Because it's a little more broad. Because like the issue I have currently is I have a very specialized field that I went into, and so with the industry kind of imploding on itself, I can't really take that skill set too far. Um, and also, I picked something for me. It was safe. Like I don't like you for you guys, are probably not as safe. But before I went into college, I was already 3D modeling with 3S Max for 5 years. So I was like, oh, this should be a slam dunk. I should be able to get into like should get my degree real easily, and then uh, it'll be fine. And then about 3 years after I got my degree, AI started taking over. So who knows what's gonna happen with my game arts degree.
But do you think that
True.
AI is
It's like-
actually going to? I feel like, especially in 3D stuff, I don't feel like I've seen a lot of AI things.
It's just a matter of time. There.
Think so?
Like, oh yeah, this is a matter of
I
time.
think so.
Especially in like I'm not in a very creative field. Like I'm in ArcViz, so there's not really something creative about a bunch of buildings. So like they're very repetitive, and once you get to the point where machines can like read the elevation plans that we were given, because we're just given a set of instructions and we just execute those instructions. And I mean, if a machine can read through the instructions, then yeah, I think that's when we start to worry about whether or not I have a job or not.
Do you ever think about going back to college?
No, fuck college.
No.
No, I have a very
How about
negative view
any?
of college.
How about any of you guys? Do you ever feel like you should go back? I mean, Kobe,
Yeah.
you're obviously still in there, so you should probably go back when the
you wanna
Wednesday,
go back,
Monday.
I feel
Kobe?
like I should go back. Yeah, I feel like I should go back to college.
Maxie, do you ever think about going back?
No.
Going back to school?
My mom wants me to, but I'm not going to.
I think it's a failure. I think I'm a bad student. Like in high school, I was not good. Yeah, I think it would be a waste of time and money for me, especially the money part. If I were to try to go back, I'm just like not good at that structure, like sitting down, listening to somebody talk.
I feel like I got better at it as get more into coding and development stuff because you're just sort of forced to do it more. Although I don't know, most of the bad parts in college are front loaded for me. It's always like the general education stuff, and then once that's out of the way, typically college gets a lot better than high school and all that stuff. So sometimes I consider it if it wasn't going to be this giant debt to have, because I went to community college for 2 years and I just took my time. I have a 2-year degree, quote unquote, whatever. Not really, but it took like 5 years because I was just working and doing it all at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And the only nice part about all that is I have no debt, so I just paid it all as I went. But I don't think I got anything. I got nothing out of that at all.
Comment, do you have debt?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I'm just like the common American young adults.
Living the American dream.
Yep.
How much debt? I would imagine for a 2-year degree. I mean, not it's a 4-year degree, but for a 2-year program, it would be less than like the full 4 years because you're just spending less time there, right?
Well, it's a polytechnic, so they can put whatever price they want. So it was still pretty pricey.
Do you,
Like I don't really want to say out loud
Okay.
for the podcast, but it's a
Fair.
substantial amount that'll make me want to
Video game yourself.
Yeah, in Minecraft.
In a video game. Yeah, in Minecraft. So
Yeah.
what's your stance then? If you could go back, you would just do a different degree?
I mean,
Comment?
to be honest, I probably wouldn't go back to college if I had the chance. I feel like as a I guess like when it comes to college, it's a very hit or miss. Like you have to really know what exactly you want out of it, and I actually kind of don't think that getting an education out of it is actually the thing you should strive for, because I feel like that's what most people go for in college. It's obviously like they think about like the education that you get, but in game dev specifically, like I'm going to specify this is for game dev, not for like other sciences and stuff like that, because I feel like differently for like doctors. Please go to college if you're a
Please,
doctor. I'd appreciate that. But for game dev, the problem with game dev is game technology. It upgrades so fast, it progresses so quickly that curriculums can't keep up. So the curriculum that I was given is severely outdated. It was like Substance Painter. We weren't even using the modern version of it. We weren't using modern versions of any of the tools. And I remember having fights with my teachers about like proper like how to handle polygons and how to properly set up hero models. And I would give her resources, and they'll just say I'm wrong. So
Jeez.
I don't think that you should go in for if you want to be a game dev, it's probably good to have this degree just because like then it shows you that you've gone through it and it gives you like
Right.
an actual tangible object showing you that you know your stuff. But what I think is more importantly is the people you meet, because I'd say that's I've met the most talented people through school. Like I have friends who I live with, who I talk to on a regular, people who yeah, just who I work with, who like I would have never met unless I went to school. And so like my network has grown exponentially from that, and because of that I was able to create more valid projects. And I know how much you guys love working on teams, but this is where I found most of my team members, because we're forced to do capstones together. So we were forced to, all right, we have to get this together, or else we're going to fail our course, and we're going to spend more money on
Yeah.
college, and we don't want to do that. So,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting you
think
say
it's
that
very
because
important.
I went through a couple boot camps, and I feel like that biggest thing that I got out of it was that connections that you get with other people. But do you think that going to college is worth building those connections, like with all the debt and all the?
He's gonna
that-
say no. Why you even ask him? He hates college. Get out of here.
Well, I don't know. What do you? I don't know. Like,
Oh yeah,
do you?
here's the thing. As much as I hate it, I probably would do it again, and it is because of the fact that if so much of my life right now is built off of the fact that I went to college. So like, as much as I hate it, I can't disregard the fact that I got my job because of my degree. If my supervisor straight up told me that if I didn't have a degree in any form, they would be like, this guy's probably a loser, a person who doesn't know how to keep deadlines. He doesn't know how to like do this stuff actually. So that has helped me in that area, and also again the people who I've met. Like I live with one of the people who I met, and he's one of the best people I've ever met, and we work on majority of projects together. So
Nice.
it's very very important to make those connections, and it's hard to do so in a. I'd say the only other place I've met a lot of solid connections was through YouTube, which I don't think that's a very typical plan for most people.
Yeah, it can be tricky out there. So how do you feel? Here's my thing. I feel like, to me, the whole thing with traditional education, it gives you way more a grounded understanding of the thing that you're doing. So for me, like if I'm learning on YouTube, right, or I'm learning through online stuff, I don't really know if I'm learning the right way to do anything. And then in the back of my head, there's always this needling feeling of like, yeah, I know how to code a little bit, but like, man, if I see someone's code that went to college, like, fuck, that's going to be way more put together. And I feel like you'd have a level of confidence. That'd be my worry of someone like abandoning all traditional forms of education and just trying to learn it on your own. Is that like you wouldn't have that confidence?
I would like to add to that. I've met the dumbest people going to college.
Oh, that's true. I have too. Wait. Oh my God. Yeah. Now
their
that you mention that.
programming- their programming is so like you're seeing like the best of the best, but like 90% of the people I've met are like, how'd you get this far?
I've met so many people that were in autopilot because I took art classes, and you see people that are like autopiloting art classes, like they just aren't really trying that hard, and they're just doing it to get the grade, like to get a good grade. And the whole time I'm thinking like, your portfolio is going to be so bad, like they're not getting anything out of this. Like, why are you doing this? Yeah, so that's true. As I say that, I mean, when I went to community college, yeah, there was a lot of people that it wasn't very impressive at all. So maybe there's just a stigma there for me.
I feel like there is sort of this feeling of wanting to put more emphasis on college than like in terms of what you gain from it. I feel like the connections is a big thing, but I feel like the education, like you said, comment, like it's not a big thing, right? Like I feel like people value it too much because there are some fields like the UX field, like they really want you to have a degree, but then like people coming out of college, like I've seen some portfolios, they're not great, right? Like I feel like the level of skill that you gain from it is not any different from the level of skill that you would have if you just tried to learn on your own. In fact, I think I see the opposite, and it's not because learning on your own is better, but I think that people who are actively learning on their own are more committed people, right? They're like,
Yes.
yeah,
I agree with that.
yeah. So they're actively going out and searching their own stuff. So the level of quality that you find in those people is going to be higher than somebody that went to college. But I don't know what you guys think about that.
I don't know if I agree with that. The main point being is like a big thing with learning online is you can get information from good people, but you can also get information from bad people with bad practices. And that's another thing that links back to the AI. It's like AI will replace good programmers, and you're like, oh, that's fine. Until you remember that you're a bad programmer and like your practices are bad, which is very much the case for like a lot of people self-taught, including me, I would say. So when you learn yourself online, I feel like you can pick up a lot of bad traits from other people. Whereas with the university, they most of the time teach you very good programming practices. Like you and I, Henry, were just going through like a assignment that we are doing the other day, and it was like instead of using public variables in a class, you were using accessors and getters and setters. Sorry, getters and setters instead of the fields as a public. And I just researched, and it was the reason why that's good is because it allows for more reusability in other classes, and also allows for error checking and validation, which you can't do with public fields.
Yeah, that
So
is
it's like small things like that.
that is true. I feel like okay, here's the point that I was going to make. When I saw the code did not make sense the way it was written. The way it had it just had straight public getters and setters. And I told you, right, the reason why you would want those is if you want to throw exceptions, or if you I didn't say it, but you mentioned it, that like handling information validation, right?
You fucking nerds. I don't know what this means.
But what I'm saying is, the point that I'm saying is, I didn't go to college, and I told you that, right? So it's not
Yeah.
impossible for somebody to learn whatever,
Yeah,
like good
absolutely not.
practices, right? It is, I would say it is more difficult, but I feel like if you have somebody that's like really interested in learning, it's not like an impossible thing to do. And I feel in general the code programming is a less degree focused field than other fields. I feel like people care more about your level of skill than other places would care. But there are other fields where that's not the case, and I feel like that's an issue with hiring managers and with companies, rather than with an issue of lack of skill on that individual person, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, the course covers a lot more on project management and other aspects of computer science as well, not just the programming, which I feel like is more suited for the degree, because when you go into a job, you're working more as a project manager and working as like a software developer, which is code, as well as you're working on, the implementations and whatever sort of project management as well. So I do totally agree that you can learn these good practices online if you're dedicated enough. I think it's dangerous though. I think it's dangerous to fall in the trap where you're learning one sort of thing and then you kind of stick with that and you're not sure because you don't have a foundation that's solid. I think it could be a slippery slope though.
I don't agree fully with that statement because like I feel like when it comes to programming, I feel like there's this big situation where a lot of programmers feel like what they know is the best way, and the biggest thing with programming is it's actually very it's like a tree. Like there's so many different ways you can go, and it could actually go in many different ways of how to solve certain problems. Like I will agree that there are situations where you need to understand how to better program, but I feel like that you can still, even if you're learning the bad practices, at least you're still learning programming. And like I'm not saying that you should keep with those bad practices because obviously they're bad practices, but for a newcomer, like I'd say that's the best thing for like a newcomer is like to start feeling out like the foundations and building on top of that. And when it comes to game dev, you're always going to be learning. Programming is always going to be changing. It's always going to be evolving. Like like I'd say like the biggest thing I could say is so from one of my jobs at my current position, I'm a tools programmer along with like 3D art and all that. And uh, so I was taught Python 3, but a lot of my courses that I went into were Python 2. So you would have to adapt, and so what would happen afterwards if like you need to learn these things and like you're no longer in school and things like that, or like I feel like you need to have the adaptability of being able to learn on the fly because like these are ever evolving fields, and so I feel like it's a little more dangerous to feel like there is a place of I actually don't know where my point is going after this actually.
Well,
Um,
it's interesting. You talked about the bad practices stuff, and
This is
then what I
slippery
found, what I found going through and learning the code stuff, especially when I took breaks and started doing the game jams, was that I was actively doing the bad practice right, and then I would run into the problem is the reason why you shouldn't do said bad practice, and then I'd be like, oh, and I would have like this. It would be the most roundabout way to learn it, and I feel like if you just followed it from the beginning the correct way, you would do it correctly, but you might not know why. But I was like, oh, now I know why, because in like little things, like I would have this is a really direct dumb example, but like let's say there was some kind of like uppercase issue with like saving a file out or saving something to so I could run it on itch, and like it just doesn't load because like I use intercapped things for some things and not others. Basically what I'm saying is that like you'll run into little dumb issues that like it's so obvious, it's very basic level stuff, but it's like, oh, now I know, and like I'm never gonna fucking forget that because it's like drilled into my head. Like the game jam was due, I was trying to upload it, the game didn't work, and I read through the errors and been like, oh, because you used a capital letter here but not there, and it just broke everything.
oh yeah.
Yeah, really dumb basic stuff that you should just know. But what it's interesting, you just come full circle. Like you do learn the bad, and there's other more crazy stuff that's like, yeah, and I look at my old code and I'm like, I just want to rewrite this now because I've learned why I should never have written it this way to begin with. It just takes
Yeah.
longer,
Yeah.
I think.
I think
Oh,
in
yeah,
game
yeah.
dev, it's like having bad practices isn't that big of a deal. Like that's a good thing about making games. When you code something badly, it's not like a plane crashes. It's just like the game doesn't work. That's like the worst,
Yeah.
the worst thing that can happen. So yeah, I think it's not important to go to coding school to make games. Like
You're like, and therefore, school's stupid.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but performance though. Like, what about game performance if it's
I
bad?
will
That's
say
the scary stuff.
Yeah, I will say that that's probably the biggest thing that I feel like I'm missing out on, because I feel like after programming for a few years now, I feel like I understand sometimes why certain things run better than other things, but then there's other things that I don't really understand. I just know that it does run faster, and I feel like that's like compilation, like stuff like learning. Like I was working on a mobile game, and I was having a ton of issues with Gradle, which is like a I think it's like a compilation software, and I just don't know anything about it. You know, I don't know anything about like optimization or how like program interacts with like the actual hardware, and I feel like that is such a difficult thing to get into because I don't even know what to look up. You know, I don't even know how to get started, and I feel like that would be a benefit, but I don't know if colleges teach that either.
No, they do. They do.
Yeah.
I know in game engineering, I knew a lot of people who were making game engines, and so like that's a big deal with game making their own engine is like optimization of assets and all that. Like
I think I'm learning that next year as well. Just
Hell
compilation
yeah.
stuff.
I
Yeah.
thought you meant game engine. I was gonna be like, dude, let's
No,
let's
no.
about to make a game engine. Let's take over Unreal. Let's get.
One of the biggest fears I have in this whole thing, we almost touched on it with the performance thing, but I get really worried that I'm going to get to the finish line and my project's just not going to work for a large chunk of people, meaning like the game's going to be buggy in some way that's going to like, and you know how these audiences work, like you get review bombed and then it's just like it's an instant like shift in perception where it's just like, no, your game's bad, you're a bad developer. And like I worry about that so much because like, it seems like that's where you really need the core skills that you're going to get from somewhere like college, as opposed to just being like, you know, learning it as you go. And it also feels like I kind of like part of what you're saying, Henry, is it feels like all the fun, sexy stuff is easy to learn online. All like the, hey, how to make your game look cool, and here's like how to do an easy third-person looking game with great lighting, all that stuff. And then when it comes to nitty-gritty stuff, it's like, well, I'm Googling it and I have no answers. And you're like, yeah, because it's boring, and no one wants to learn the boring stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel
Yeah,
like,
you're right. I think when you're learning stuff and you search up tutorials, a lot of the time you're copying down what they're doing and you're not learning. A lot of learning does come from trial and error though. Like if something breaks and you're switching values or whatever. But I think whenever I watch a tutorial on something super complex, it just flies over my head. I'm not learning anything. And I think the same thing goes for learning good practices as well. The code that I'm copying down has good practices because it's from a person who understands code well. And the stuff I'm doing usually is bad practices. And I'm like, oh, this person has done something so much more optimized or so much more different than the way I would do it. And I do learn stuff from that, but on the other hand, it's like, it flies over my head because it's so like, I don't know what's going on here. I think in that sense, it's good to start from the ground up, knowing what to do, and then build your way up. But it's hard to do it if you're self-teaching. It's just good to learn the basics first, and then also learn good practices first.
Also, I don't think good practices in code do like have a lot of a result in the end. Performance of the actual game. I think most of the performance actually lies in like the graphics part of the game. Like this is where I have to optimize things constantly, not in the code. Like it's not like the game runs slow and then I have to do something in the code. No, I have to do something about the meshes or the I have too many batches or something. I have to reduce the batches, stuff like that. That's usually what the performance issues are, and not that I wrote some code that was just bad.
I kind of feel like when it comes to game development, good practices are always good to have, just because they're good practices. However, I do think though your main focus should be on getting your target frame right. Because I feel like
The Doom guy would say that, wouldn't you? Get your target
What?
frame.
Yeah, no matter what,
said
just
the
get the
Doom-
frame rate.
The first person
No
shooting
matter
Doom guy
what.
is like, you gotta have at least 120 at all
Well,
times.
no, my point is if you have bad practices, but you can still maintain 60 FPS, do you really need to optimize your game further? Because you're already you're already running at what would be optimal, and
I'm
so
sure Vicidium would have something to say about that.
Residium he's not satisfied unless he has 1,000,000 frames per second. All right, so
He'll get there one day.
yeah. So the reason why I say that though is I feel like that's a good way to kind of cripple yourself and try to prevent yourself from moving forward. Because I'd say that I'm not the best coder in the world. I'm just not. I'm an artist turned programmer, so I have art brain. That's why I use blueprints.
Same.
Because
There's no cure for art brain.
Yeah. So I do things that I think oh, this should work, right? Yeah, this for loop within another for loop, that should be okay, right? Oh no, that's bad.
I've had these
Okay, well,
same thoughts.
yeah, and recently I found out that so the reason why all my games have memory issues is because you can't use hard references. You have to use soft references. What the hell's a hard reference? And so you go through these stages, but the thing is at least I was still producing things. And I actually have a little bit of a fan base. I say a little bit. I mean, I have 10 people who keep up with my games. But at least I have people who've played my games, who have said my games are amazing. And little do they know that it was made by some dude who spent the last 2 days on Monsters trying to crank out this video game for this game jam. And it's horribly optimized. It doesn't have any. It's so bare bones with the programming. I did what I could to make it work, but at the end of the day, the video game was there, and people were playing it.
Yeah, I feel like I've heard stories of people having the tendency after they graduate from college to rely on that college degree, and then when they start applying for jobs, they will run into people and go so where's your portfolio? What have you built on top of these simple projects? And they go you know, but I don't know how universal of an experience that is, and I feel like you tend to get those people more in college than I made that point than people who self-teach.
Have you guys ever paid for the courses, the online, there are so many of them now, well, either game development, this is how you get into game development, or even coding, which seems a little bit more justified. The get into game development stuff seems like YouTube gurus to me, where they're you know how to, make your game famous? I'm going to teach you. And I'm I don't know if this is going to be useful at all. But have you guys ever done any of that?
Should I say the name? Should I
never
say the name
paid.
that I'm going to
I don't need to say it. No, because then you got to cut it out. You have to do all the editing. You can say whatever you want. It's your editing.
He just wants to mention a YouTube every single
And
episode.
it actually is a YouTuber. No, but
See.
I'll go with the positive. I feel like I have done that. I feel Game Dev TV is one of my favorite places to like to learn. That's where I first started learning, and I feel they've been pretty consistent in their quality. But I have also taken some other courses that were super disappointing and that had like really bad coding. And it's interesting to see that I feel like a lot of courses are more focused on the end product than actually like teaching you anything. And I think that's sort of what tutorials are, right? Tutorials are focused on the end product than actual teaching of whatever you're trying to learn. So I would recommend, if you're trying to learn, to go through courses instead of trying to go like learning on YouTube, because I feel like that's just the wrong place to look at, unless you're looking at like Code Monkey or something, you know.
Yeah, I'd say that that's where I learned the majority of my knowledge as well, is through like Udemy. I'd say that like
Oh, really?
oh yeah, like I learned how to code in Python through that, and that's actually what got me my job, kind of, almost maybe. I like to think so, at least. But through that, I was able to learn how to like make tools for Maya, and like that if it didn't get my job, it at least secured my job, because now they rely on my code that they have no idea how to disassemble from. So, but yeah, I learned how to code like legitimately, because I've known how to like blueprint code for years, but I never knew how to like code in like C++ or like Python until like I took like those courses and learned like full on like how to type it out.
Yeah,
I feel like it's hard to
think I
tell.
learned-
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I like learn from like the free websites, just like Codecademy and stuff. And I also want to say like, even though I'm talking about all this like, oh, you should learn best practices and like being feel like a really strict perspective, I am in no way a good programmer. Like I just want to get that out there. Like I'm not trying to say that I'm really a good programmer.
It's too much
I just think that
self-deprecation
it's
in
good.
this area.
I think it's good to like learn the practices, because I know how bad of a programmer I am, and I think it's like really important that I should learn how to do it properly. So I'm not saying that I'm a good programmer. I just say I think it's important to learn. But yeah, go
For
ahead. Sir.
sure. Well, I always wonder when it comes to paid stuff. Some people have the premise that's like, if I pay for it, I'm going to be committed to it. Do you guys feel that way about taking these kind of things, or no?
Well, here's the thing. I wish I was. I wish I felt that way, because I spent a lot of money on these things.
Comments like, it just adds to the pile of debt. It just keeps growing.
Yeah. It's like, is that a good thing though? Because like, if you pay for something and then you like, you're paying for something productive, like you're learning. So maybe if you pay for something and you're locked in and you're like learning it, it's like maybe it's good that you paid for it.
I feel
Oh,
like
yeah.
for a course, I don't really have that feeling. But I have a friend, you guys know him, Giovanni. He actually does do that, where he will sign up for programs that have like include live sessions and have like actual deadlines, where if you don't meet, then you know there's some sort of whatever like repercussion for that. And see that it works really well for him, because he's been like trying to learn Figma for years, literal years, and he hasn't really made any good strides in it until recently, until he just signed up for a course or for a program with like live stuff.
Maxie, I'm very distracted by that.
Yeah, what's going on there?
I'm gonna be right back.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't know, man. Education is so bizarre in this field because you can do so much without it, and then it feels like sometimes you don't need it. But is that just like a big cope? That's how I feel overall about education, is that it's tough to figure it out, and then the last thing you want to do is be in a lot of debt and be nowhere better off than before.
Yeah.
I don't know. Have you guys ever thought about working for like bigger? I mean, I know to some extent, comment you want to, right? Work for bigger corporations or work for like an actual game dev job, or no?
The face you're
Make a
making
face.
says no.
That was so
Listeners,
great.
he's making a face.
That was
I
like,
used
I
to.
know you. Oh, okay, really? Okay, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
I used to, but my optimism for like AAA space has died significantly.
Why is that?
Oh.
So, it seems like every time I want like to enjoy a company, like be like, oh my god, I love that company, I can't wait to work for them. Like a skeleton pops out. I'm like, oh okay, you guys are kind of assholes, and I don't know if I trust you guys anymore. Like I think something that happened recently that also kind of burned me was well, actually I have two things. So I applied for a pretty big company out here in Texas. I'm not gonna name names, but I went to I was about to get the job, and then they actually sent me an email saying I have the job, And then I'm like, oh my god, I got a game development job. Well, what the hell? I'm gonna be a rigger. Hell yeah! And like so I was like super excited. I got my army of roommates, and then we were just like, we're gonna go to Texas, boys. Let's go. And then while I was driving, they let me know. I was like, oh, sorry, that was premature. We actually accepted someone else. I was like, okay, well, I'm still going to Texas.
Jesus. You're in the car with all your stuff packed, driving to the job, and they go, "No, we're gonna cancel that."
Yeah.
That's
That was
fucking shitty.
yeah. So it was really great because it was a life changing because it was going to be so awesome, and then it became life changing because I could be homeless soon. So you know, that was a little bit wild, but so that permanently tarnished my feelings towards that company. And then I had some friends who actually worked there, and they left to work for Blizzard, and then they're like, "Yeah, that company sucked. I hate that company." It's like, why were you trying to encourage me to go in the first place? And then,
That's
but
insane.
then, yeah, then later I applied to another company out here, and uh, they didn't. First of all, they didn't believe that my portfolio was my own portfolio. They apparently I'm too talented for their for them to believe that I actually made that. It's like, you can't be an artist and a programmer at the same time. You can't fool us. It's like, okay, sorry. And then I tried again later, and then I found out that they have this like harsh non-compete clause, where basically if you make literally anything while you work for them, it belongs to them. And yeah, I just was not really
That
interested
sounds
in doing that.
insane.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's not
Well,
good.
thankfully that's going away. I don't know if you saw the news.
Yeah,
but,
yeah,
like,
yeah. I was just about to bring that up. They recently passed
maybe
a law.
I'll try again this time. You know.
Wait, what was the news? I don't know any of this.
They recently
I did
passed
see
a
the
law
news.
to ban non-compete clauses, which is crazy.
Seriously?
Yeah. I think it's gonna. The law already passed, but it's not in effect yet. I think. Do you know when it will be in effect? It's like a couple weeks, right, or a week or something.
Oh, I have no clue.
Did you
It
just
was
say
like-
Dino?
Do you know? I think he said.
Wait, what?
I'm back. Sorry about that.
Hey, Dino, do you know?
Oh,
Dino? Where
oh,
are you?
you said,
Dino? Is he
did
in the
you
room with
know?
us right now?
Yeah, Dino. You're asking Dino.
Do
I thought
you
he
know?
said, "Did you know?"
Yeah, did you know?
Okay.
Yeah. I think it was very clearly. Do you know?
Do you know?
Okay.
But it's
No,
crazy
no.
because I feel like have you guys ever signed a non-compete?
Yeah. But
Yeah.
like mine's an arc viz, so it's not like, oh god, I'm gonna be making buildings in my spare time.
You better not. That's why your games have no buildings in them. We all know why now.
Yeah.
I feel like non-competes are more prevalent than maybe you did sign it and you just are not aware. Because I had to
Yeah.
sign a non.
You can't go to any other dairy store, Zeth. All right.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
have to leave.
Maybe.
Legit, I signed a non-compete when I was working at Domino's. You know, I could not work at another.
Really?
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
Seriously?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I'm pretty
feel,
sure I can moonlight at a second, like a Stop and Shop or whatever. I can go to a different
I-
You
place.
can moonlight us.
Yeah, I think so.
I told my manager like, oh, I got another job. I was working like a few jobs at the time. I told her I got another job at this place, and I was like, oh, is it a pizza shop? I was like, yeah, and she was like, oh, you can't do that. You signed a non-compete. I was like, oh, I did enough.
That sounds insane. I don't understand the logic there. Like you're gonna go there.
Actually,
And,
can't make pizza at home. Otherwise, they can take it and sell it as their own pizza.
Well,
Exactly.
Non-competes are meant to stop you from working at a different company. It's not like working at your own stuff. Working at home, like if you're just
that's
doing it
not
as a
fully true. At
um
least in the creative field, it's definitely that because I had a friend who worked at Sony, and he ended up leaving his job at Sony because they were trying to take his project he was working at home, and so they said that because of like the non-compete that they signed, it's either that they get the project, or he leaves, and he chose to leave.
yeah. Yeah, I guess it differs from company to company, but I mean Domino's was one, but I also worked at a editing editing house, and they asked for a non-compete for up to a year after I left the job, which I think even before this, I think that wasn't enforceable. I'm not too sure about it, but they said that you can't work at another editing or production studio if like after you live this job for 1 year. So I guess I didn't see on my end like the personal projects at home stuff.
I feel like that'd be shit now to work at a game dev place, because all I would want to do, like for actual studio, all I would want to do is work on my own stuff on the side while I got paid to do, to basically learn and work on a game. But if they're gonna take it, then it's like, oh, screw that. I'm just gonna
That's
work.
why that's why you have a pen name and don't tell them who you really are.
Oh, that means you're committing crimes. I understand
Yeah.
perfectly.
Yeah, but is it really a crime if you're happy?
True.
Yes, I would say.
I mean,
you can commit tons of crimes. with a
No,
smile.
no, no, no. Let him talk.
I'd
Let
say
him
I'm
play.
happy while doing
Yeah, I
crime.
just wanted to commit that murder. Right? It made me happy. I hate it.
You know,
We had to let him
you
go
know,
because he was happy.
yeah, I feel you. I'm with you. Comment.
Henry knows what's up.
Yeah, yeah,
All right,
yeah.
let's go. All right, Henry. You want to commit some casual murder? Let's go.
I think if I.
Uh-huh.
Go ahead.
I was just
All
gonna
right,
say.
I think,
well, okay. I was just gonna say. Guess what? Zeth, they're taking away.
What?
They're taking away non-competes. So-
non-competes.
So
You
Yeah.
can compete now.
Yeah, yeah.
No one
you,
will compete.
You can't compete now. So
I can go work at 2 grocery stores at the same time.
bro,
No one's gonna stop me.
true. No one's
Very
gonna stop
exciting.
you.
I might stop game dev just to do that. Maybe that's the new plan. I have a passion.
Literally work at the same time, like being 2 places at once. Or...
I was thinking I could do night crew at a different grocery store, and then I'll do day crew at my grocery store. That would be my thing. I feel like, I don't know if this is still true, but it feels like when I was growing up, it seemed like when you went for like these fun jobs, game dev is sort of pitched as like a fun job on the outside. I know it's stressful and it's probably not fun once you're doing it, but it's a job a lot of people want. It seems like those jobs pay less and are way more competitive to get. And now we're talking about them having non-competes, or at least currently having them. They seem like a nightmare then. It seems like on average you shouldn't go for them. You should go to college for something in coding so you could do if you're going to do your side project thing. But then you shouldn't go for the job that everyone wants, that's not going to pay as much, and that's probably going to burn you out and not going to make you, and try to take your game from you if you work for Sony or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, I feel I started learning web developments. Like that's how I got into programming first, was websites, and it's crazy the amount that they were offering for salaries for web development, and then the amount they were offering for game development was like huge difference. And I feel like after doing both, web development is so much easier than game development. It's crazy.
Now, my degree was 2 years of multimedia studies, but most of what I did was web stuff. And I even was making portfolios for web design. Yeah, it was more like the visual aspect of it because I was all artsy. But still, yeah, I was right there with you with web stuff. And I was looking at the same like Indeed, like going through. And yeah, it seemed promising at the time. And I never pulled the trigger on it. But
Yeah.
I have a question for you, Henry, since you're all about web development. Do you know how to center a div?
wow.
It's a little difficult. I don't know if I could tell you right now. I would have to.
Oh, okay.
Do you know about
Okay.
REST?
No, I don't know about rest. I never rest.
HTML.
Are you
Yeah,
even a web
yes.
dev? You don't know what REST is?
Google.
So I don't.
What's
I
REST?
think- I have no idea what rest is, by the way. That's why I'm like changing the subject.
I'm interested now. I'm hooked.
Well,
Yeah.
nope. That's for you guys to find out. I'm not web
True.
dev, so I don't know.
I only did design, really.
Okay.
I'm a fake. I'm a poser.
I guess we don't know. Guess we will never know.
All right, it seems like we're all pretty mixed or negative on college education, traditional
No, go to
education.
college, have fun, go into debt. You know why not?
I feel.
Yeah, I guess so.
I feel like just to go back on that a little bit. I feel like I have this negative perception of college, but the way that life is right now, like society, like you still kind of need it, because I feel like we're all pretty talented, right? We're all we all know.
I'm pretty bad.
Okay, like legit, we all are like capable of doing stuff, but none of us are working in game dev. Only Comet is working like in ArcViz, and he has gotten opportunities to work in game dev and was like close to that, right? And he was the only one that went to college, or that went to college for like a full 4-year degree, and he got those opportunities. So I feel like you can say college isn't worth it, but at the same time, like we're sitting here,
I guess it depends on what you want.
Yeah, it depends on your
If you want to
perspective.
work for a big company, that makes games, for a big game company, then I guess it makes sense to go to college. But if you want to be an indie game dev, then why? I don't see a reason.
I think it's interesting because I feel like that question you're posing is also a very new question because I felt like when I was growing up, like there wasn't really indie dev. It was just the big companies. It was like there was Epic, there was Naughty Dog, there was Insomniac, and so like growing up, it's like I can't wait to be a AAA developer and like
Yep.
be a part of that world because there was no indie dev. It wasn't
Yeah.
until like I'd say like 10 years ago. That's
Yeah,
like
when
when
Xbox Live Arcade really got big, and they were like, "Hey, these small games are not just Flash games anymore. They're actually games you can buy."
Yeah, I
yeah
feel like the first wave was like Super Meat Boy and like Braid and
Yep.
those kind of games.
That
And
was the
Yeah.
summer of arcade. They used
yeah,
to do
yeah.
that.
And I feel like even at the time, it still felt like an unachievable thing. It still felt like these were like super giants in the
yeah
field. But nowadays, you have things like Lethal Company, taking off. Oh dear, right?
yeah
Oh dear is like taking off too. So I feel like
Yeah.
we have seen like case studies of this actually working. So I guess that is true.
yeah
It's also not only like these big guys. I know someone also lives in Germany, and he ma- made a couple games, and he made it since he was young as well. And he is not like a big guy, but he can live just from his games, and he has built a community around his games. It's like some 2D multiplayer tank shooter,
Hmm.
like World of Tanks, but different. I don't know. But he can live from that off of that without being a big guy. So I think there are a lot of people who live off of that. If he can.
Yeah, you don't
That's
hear.
more interesting to. I was gonna say that's more interesting to me because like it feels so scary to be like you have to have the giant boom explosion game that like is the biggest thing ever. It's nicer to be like, oh, you can release small projects and maybe a couple people follow you and like there's more of a steady growth there. That's more interesting to me than just trying to win the lottery.
I feel
Yeah.
yeah. I feel like that is true that there are a lot of those people. I mean, obviously they have to exist, right? Because there's these huge people, so there's going to be some smaller people that can survive, but you just don't hear about them because they're not big, right? Like by the definition of them, they're just like
Yeah.
surviving. Yeah. But I think that's also a good point. Like, it is much more viable than what it seems like. You just hear about these big guys, and it's like, oh, I have to do that, but you don't. I think that's cool. I like that.
Yeah, definitely. Well, if there's any last words, I think that kind of wraps up our talk about education. And yeah, you could go to education if you want to work for the giant companies. Or otherwise, it seems like if you're going to do it on your own, you could save a lot of money.
I want to say to hiring managers,
oh.
bro, there are people out there that can do this shit that didn't go to
Yeah.
college. Hire them, you motherfucker. True, actually.
Yeah,
yeah
aggressive.
yeah hiring managers do that.
I
All
think-
right.
All right, well, thank you
Henry
guys.
mentioned before. Oh,
Oh, go
sorry.
ahead. No, go ahead.
I
No,
was gonna say
last
like,
thing.
yeah, when I was talking to Henry before about this education, we have lots of education talks. It seemed like, but I think you mentioned like my path was very like traditional, and is that a good thing or a bad thing? Is the question. I think you said it's fine. Like it's not like bad that I'm doing a traditional path. Straight out of high school, uni, job. Hopefully, not. It doesn't have to be in game dev, but just a job. And my question is that an outdated traditional? Or is that still going to be the tradition of tomorrow, of the future?
I don't think that's a
going
fair
to college.
question. I don't think that's a fair question, to be honest, because like I feel like different people have different opinions on how they prefer to learn. Like, because I don't like going to school. I hate school. From a young age,
Based.
I faked being sick, played hooky, did everything I could to ditch school, and then eventually when I got to high school, I was able to get a document from my doctor saying that it's okay for me to stay home from school. I did everything in my power to stay home from school, but other people don't work that way. There's people who need school, who they don't learn outside of like that very like assembly line curriculum. That's their style of learning. And so to say that like is it outdated? It feels like it's excluding the people who learn that way. who learn from teachers and things like that.
I wonder how true it is that I feel like you would imagine that most people learn that way, but I feel like a lot of people do learn through school, but it's not like a perfect solution for them, right? They sort of have to
Yeah.
like fit themselves into that mold. But I do agree there are some people that like do really thrive in that environment. But I feel like for me, I was like on the opposite spectrum where I was like, it was very
I
difficult.
agree.
Yeah,
I
it was very
agree.
difficult for me personally. So I never saw school like as like a super valid way of learning, because I just felt like I never got anything out of it. But when I did it on my own, it was like so much easier, and I learned so much.
Yeah.
But I'm curious to see. I think if you, I don't know. I don't want to like presuppose in it. But if you were to like, if it was the tradition to, like, say, hey, you have 18 years to learn whatever you want and do that on your own, I feel like there would be some people that fail, right? That need that structure. But I wonder. I'm just curious. How many of those people that are fitting themselves into this traditional mold would thrive better on in the self-learning path? You know, it's just a curious
I
question.
feel like I'd flop. Like, I'm very traditional minded. I would flop if I had 18 years to myself. Procrastinate. But it's weird because, like, 4 out of the 5 of us seem to be very anti school, right? Like, the anti school learning minded. And I'm feeling like I'm the odd one out, like, being the
I'm not-
traditional one.
I'm
So
not
I think
anti-school.
maybe.
I just don't like school.
Yeah, you like just didn't like school. That's essentially what I mean. Like not in the school mindset, basically. But I wonder if
used to,
that's because game dev is creative or if it's because just smaller sample size.
I wonder if
I think,
creatives
yeah.
don't like college so much. Go ahead, Maxi.
I think if we just take like 5 random people out of the world and then ask them, would you rather learn on your own or in school? Maybe that would be different. Maybe that wouldn't be like 4-1. But in we're all game dev YouTubers. I think in this space it makes sense. And also if we would ask like just 5 random game devs, like who do anything in relation to game devs, then it would also be different. I think a lot of game devs probably become game devs through school, but we just aren't. But they are like working actual jobs and not doing a podcast like that.
Darn them with their actual jobs.
God damn it. They're probably working right now.
Yeah, I feel
Yeah.
like a big part of the reason I don't like school also is like just the discrimination that I face personally. I feel like there's a lot of teachers out there that suck, and I feel you don't get that when you're learning on your own. True, actually.
True.
Yeah, you're always gonna have good and bad teachers too. Like, oh, dude, I remember I went to community college, and you have some teachers that apparently didn't have to sign a no compete, because some teachers were just at this community college and others were from a bigger university, and they would just like do a couple classes once in a while. And those teachers were so fucking good. Holy shit! Like, you could just, the way they had their whole curriculum and everything, they just felt so put together. And then I remember going to like an art class with we have a nickname for him. But anyway, this one teacher, Professor Hoagie, everyone used to call him. And he literally brought up, this is years ago, he brought up lynda.com, and he was just going through that website. And I was like, what are we doing here? I remember being so frustrated, being like, are you fucking serious?
That was
and
my
also, I
entire
remember,
college degree. That's why I hated it.
yeah, really? Seriously? You're just
That's
learning
why
from
it's all
lynda.com?
fucking lame. I spent way too much money on. I was about to spill the number. Way too much money on YouTube and lynda.com.
Seriously. I remember skipping classes. I think I've said this before. I skipped classes and I would hang out outside, but I would literally be like within earshot of the class because I didn't want to go. I wanted to just be working on stuff and have no one around me distract me, no one looking at the stuff I'm working on, especially if it was bad. Like the art, if you're in the middle of drawing something. So maybe that's me and I have anxiety with something like that. But yeah, I actively, like, even when I went to college, I was like, all I want to do is be here on my own working. And then when you stumble into game dev online and all the tutorial stuff, I was like, where was this my whole life? I should have been looking at this stuff instead of, convincing myself that this community college was going to teach me everything I wanted. Yeah. I remember one class I had was, this was with Professor Hoagie, which is not his real name, but it was something like that. And, he had like a video class, and I just kept skipping every other class or every class because I was so not into it. But I was like, at the time I was filming and doing stuff for my YouTube channel that was music and everything. And I remember he was like, all right, class, on this certain day, we're going to go in and we're going to work with green screens in the production room. And I was so opposed to doing that, especially because you're going to go on the green. He wanted everyone to stand in front of the green screen and do something. It felt so uncomfortable, right? You were going to do something, film it, and then you make your project with that you're filming it. And it just felt like I was going to make an ass of myself. I just didn't want to do that. So I remember I skipped that day, and then I went on Amazon and bought like what Maxi has behind him, like a green screen, and hung it up in my wall. And then I filmed myself playing, because I had a YouTube where I'm playing guitar, right? So I filmed myself doing that, and I edited it all together and did that. And remember his first reaction was like, so did you steal this? And I was like, no, I just worked on it. He's like, well, he didn't show up to class. Right? He accused me multiple times of stealing stuff, and I felt like so, I felt so uncomfortable. But at the same time, it was better than going and the public aspect of learning is probably the most frustrating. The most I've skipped classes is when it's like, we're going to read out loud. I'm like, that's the worst. I don't want to do that.
Yeah, I feel like I've had that experience so much where I've been accused of cheating or copying other people's shit. And like I have had that conversation so many times where a teacher will pull me into class and say like, "You cheated. We know.
Come on.
Yeah,
we
yeah.
know." Nowadays they go, "Oh, how much AI wrote this?" And you go, "What? No, I didn't. What the fuck?"
Oh yeah, like, I've had actual like recruiters say that to me. So you know.
Yeah.
Did they accuse you of having AI?
No, they accused me of not forging my resume.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah, I feel like I just had like a super negative experience with school, so I'm like super, like me personally, I just would not go. Yeah, just like the discrimination. I think it kind of scarred me a little bit, you know.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it would scar me too. Yeah, that shit's tough.
Yeah. Because it wasn't just like one year. It was like every single year. I had multiple teachers like, accosting me for something I didn't do. For hey, you're not supposed to be this smart. Look at you, you're Mexican. What the fuck is wrong with you? And that was it. I don't know if it was a race thing, but it was something about me.
That's really shitty. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. All right, I was gonna wrap it up unless anyone else had anything to say about education.
I feel like you tried 5 times already.
No, I only tried one time, and I was like, "Oh, relax. I need like a code word."
Spider-Man.
Yeah. So, the Spider-Man noise. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. My name is MZF. Thank you, Henry. Thank you, Maxi. Thank you, Kobe. And of course, thank you, Comet, for jumping on and listening to me on
Keith
the
Makes
Overscope
Games, not
podcast.
Comet.
Keith Makes Games. Yeah. Do you want to shout out your channel?
It was on, you can call me Keith on the podcasts instead of Comet because no one knows me as Comet. But my name is Keith Makes Games.
Keith Makes Games on YouTube. All one word? I think so,
Yep.
right?
What's the story behind that, by the way? Like why?
The name?
Yeah, why are you comment on Discord and why Keith Makes Games on YouTube?
Because Keith Makes Games came later, and I thought that no one's gonna watch a channel just called Comet. So like, Comet's just a screen name I made when I was young, and like I just kept it.
Gotcha. But your real name is
Space.
Keith.
Yeah, my real name is Keith. Funny enough, Dino asked me like, "What's your real name?" I'm like, Keith. And he's like, "Wait, that's your real name?
Really?
Like, why would I like use some random ass name for?"
You just like Jim makes games, but you're not Jim. Like, whatever
Yeah.
Jim is, he's making games.
Guys, I have a secret. My name is actually not Henry. I should this whole time.
My
name is
name
Veras.
Veras.
I never know where not to believe Henry or whoever Henry is. I never know.
Home Studios.
All right, thank you guys for watching. And that was a podcast. There you go.
Alrighty.